Crowdcube is an online platform that allows people to raise money for their businesses from absolutely anybody. We've been going for just about 2 years now, and during that time we've raised 3.7 million for 21 different companies. Taking that leap from being in a full-time paid job to actually running your own business is a big leap, especially when you've got commitments. But at some point you have to back your own idea and take that leap and back yourself, and you have that belief in your business to do that. And I just thought at that point in time, if I don't do this now, then I'm never going to do it. And I'd hate to see this idea take off and somebody else do it. So at that point, I just knew that I had to take that leap. And looking back, I'm just so glad that I did it. And I've had lots of other ideas for businesses, which for various reasons, I never actually got them off the ground. But the big reason I never did get them off the ground was I didn't have money to fund them. And I saw lots of other people who had ideas for businesses in the same situation and also struggled to find finance. And I thought there must be another way of doing this. There must be a way to raise money in a different way. And I thought, if we can get a concept together to allow people to do that, it's going to be popular. I did a huge amount of research and analysis, a lot of thinking initially, a lot of sharing the idea with other people and getting feedback. And then once I knew that it was viable, I started to do some proper research. From our point of view, there's a lot of legal aspects to it, and also I got legal, some legal guys involved quite early on. So it was about 2 years actually in the formation. Whilst I was working full time in my previous job, I've actually pulling together the idea a bit further. Yeah, it's not difficult to find the right people to share your ideas with. I shared it immediately with my family and friends, and some kind of people who I knew, colleagues of mine at work who I trusted. But then the key thing for me was to really find some experts in the area who were kind of acting like a mentor in some degree and had some further understanding of the sector than I did, because my background is not in financial services at all. So I was planning the idea for about 2 years before we actually launched, getting everything together, and then it's actually taken us 2 years from launch to get to where we are now. There's a simple reason why we decided to base the business here, is that we live here already. But that said, with technology, the great thing about it and the internet is that it doesn't actually matter where you're based. So the great thing about the Southwest is you have that balance of work-life balance. So although we can run a technology business here, we have the supposedly better weather down here, and we have beaches and countryside and all those great things. So which enabled us to kind of have that work-life balance that we look for. I think it's an advantage to be in a cluster, because not necessarily from a funding point of view, but more from the idea of sharing your experiences and sharing your knowledge and sharing your problems with other people who would have similar kind of challenges. We're quite fortunate in the Innovation Centre where we're based. There are other businesses that are similar to ours that we can share those with, but I think perhaps London does have its advantages by having those clusters, and other places like Cambridge as well. It's undoubtedly more difficult to recruit the type of staff that we need, particularly the technical guys, and sometimes we're looking for people with some financial background as well. And both of those skill sets would be easier to get in London. But that said, there's 100 times more companies like us in London looking to recruit those people as well. So it's a case of supply and demand to some degree. And I think we also have a little bit of an advantage, like I said before, that we have a great environment and a great location here in the country, and people want to work in a place like Devon. Our big challenge as a business is to try and raise the awareness of what we do, because what we do is so new and unique and innovative. And we're a tiny company at the moment based in the southwest of England. We need the whole of the UK to understand what we do. And when you're working on a shoestring, as we have been to date, to try and get that awareness and make everybody aware that there's this great new service is a real challenge.
So what sort of things do you do? Do you want to share?
Yeah, well, like I said, we're in the early stages of the business, and we haven't really raised a huge amount of money so far. So we've been very conscious of running the business in a lean way. So one of the things we did early on, we realised that we had a good story, and that PR would be a great way of getting ourselves known. So we got in bed with a PR company, and because we couldn't really afford to bring them on, we gave them some shares in our company, which meant that they had a financial interest, but at the same time they also had an interest in making the business a success. So the way I describe our elevator pitch is it's like Dragon's Den, but online. So basically a business can come to our website, They can pitch their business, how much money they want to raise, how much of their shares they want to give away, and anybody can come along and invest in that business. And the idea that rather than Deborah Meaden or Theo Pafitas being these dragons investing large amounts of money in a business, absolutely anybody can invest anything from £10 upwards. Yeah, we have quite a stringent filtering process of the businesses that approach us. So we will go through their business plan. They must have a business plan. They must have financial forecasts. We go through those in quite some detail to make sure that they're good and they're solid. And we ask lots of questions about the background of the entrepreneur and the company itself. And those are really the credentials that we require from those people to get them up onto our website. It's starting to swing around. I think in the early days we were a last resort for funding. So a lot of people who came to us had been to the banks and they had tried other ways of raising money. And then they came to us and thought, well, I might as well give crowdfunding a try. However, one of the businesses we just funded in the last few weeks, they got 2 offers from venture capital companies, big major player venture capital companies, turned them both down and came to us instead. So the way that this works is starting to switch around to being a first choice of funding now.
Why do you think that is?
It's because, well, they had a number of reasons why they came to us. One was that they wanted to involve they had a membership already of 70,000 people, and they wanted to involve their members and their customers to become owners of the company as well as customers. And a lot of people like that dynamic. Above and beyond that, they also wanted to have quite a few investors rather than one big investor. Because if they had one big VC investor, then you're going to have that person looking over your shoulder the whole time, looking at what you're doing and driving you and making sure that you fit with what they want you to do rather than what you want to do. A business plan and a financial forecast, and they may sound like, in some ways, kind of antiquated documents that people need. But what they do is they demonstrate that you've thought through more than just the idea of what the product or the service might be, and you've thought through how you're going to sell it, who you're going to have to bring on as your team, and when you're going to need to bring them on, how much money you need, what you're going to spend it on, and what your cash flow is. When you're going to need that money, and what are the incomings and outgoings of the business. And it's important for any business to have sort of thought these things through, and it's particularly important for an investor to understand that the person they're going to invest in has the ability and the capability to think these things through as well. So I know if I was investing in a business, I would absolutely want to be convinced that somebody I was investing in knew and understood these things. So there needs to be some people in around startups who can help them with those things at a reasonable cost. I mean, there's plenty of people that will do it and charge you a few £1,000s, but the dilemma is that startups don't have money to pay people to do that. So either the government perhaps needs to provide that service, or there needs to be a number of people who will do that on some kind of a contingent basis and say, okay, well, I'll help you do that, but I'll pay me when you can, or give me some shares in your company. And that will help these businesses take that step from the idea to having the business plan and getting the funding. Our challenge isn't getting businesses coming through, it's getting great businesses coming through, and getting businesses that are at the right stage, and getting them to understand what they need to have in place to get investment. Because you get people coming to us with great ideas for businesses, and even perhaps with a great business up and going, but if they can't present themselves credibly to potential investors, then they're never going to get invested in. And quite a lot of them don't understand that, or don't have the ability to do that. So one of our frustrations is we can't help all these people to get themselves investment ready. And perhaps that's something the government can do a little bit better, is to help foster these people and incubate them and get them investment ready. Yeah, our success rate at the moment is about 10% of the businesses that list on Crowdcube so far then go on to successfully raise the full amount of money they're looking for. And that's probably in line, if not slightly better than the more traditional ways of raising money through business angel networks or banks or venture capital companies. And genuinely, we're really here to try and give those people who can't find finance in other ways a new way of doing it. And we'd love to find thousands of entrepreneurs who, without us, wouldn't have raised their money. And of the 21 we've already funded now, I think 3/4 of them probably would never have found their money in another way. And it's incredibly satisfying for us to be providing that kind of a service. The one piece of advice I always say, that looking back on what I've done, for me it's about perseverance and persistence, and just keeping going and backing yourself and believing yourself. And if you've got that faith in yourself and your idea, don't give up on it, just keep going, because you'll get some awful headaches and obstacles in your way. And if you give up, then you're giving up on your idea and your belief. But if you try and beat those obstacles down, 9 times out of 10 you will overcome them and get to the next stage. And there is always a light at the end of the tunnel, so it's about just keeping going, really.